As you know, big strong debate going on, man.
Uh-oh.
East Chicago players,
Uh-oh.
oh, best in history, who the best overall. You know how it is. And your name been mentioned a lot, so you know, um, folks want to hear from you about this because you are one of the top dogs to come through. So they want to hear from one of the top dogs on who they feel like is the best. So let's start off with quarterback.
Quarterback. It's kind of hard for me to talk about the guys before me. You know what I mean? The
Gotcha.
Wumps, the Bob Gillises, and guys like that, because I was young and really didn't get to really know and realize what they were doing on the field. But from about '93, when I was in the seventh grade, to '90, to the 2000s, you know, Marcus Reeves was a leader. I mean, Marcus Reeves was a leader. He could lead a team. He was a playmaker. You know what I'm saying? But Keon Frazier could win a game on his right arm. So I got to go with Keon Frazier, because if you're talking about a quarterback, a guy who can throw a football, you got to say Keon Frazier.
Gotcha. Running back.
Running back. Man, I ain't know Royce Robertson was a Gatorade Player of the Year.
Oh yeah,
That say a lot.
that says a
I
lot.
mean, but Ping, I remember Ping. I mean, it's
It's
a
hard.
toss up right there. Gatorade Player of the Year mean a lot though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So who you going with?
I mean, I just remember as a kid knowing that, standing outside in the parking lot or on the side of the grass playing football as a kid, I just knew every time I heard the crowd roar, I knew Martell France was running up and down the sideline.
Got you. I got your answer. Okay. Fullback.
Fullback, Carl Biggins.
Okay.
Carl Biggins, definitely. From what I've seen, Carl Biggins, definitely.
Wide receiver.
Wide receiver. He kind of gets kind of tricky right there
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
It really get kind of tricky for me
Yeah.
because Antoine Kennedy showed me the game. You know what I mean? And I knew personally what kind of player he was, but the numbers don't show that. The numbers really don't show that. You know what I mean? But so, and I heard about Jamie Stewart. The things he did in East Chicago football. But Antoine Bullard was he wasn't as consistent as we would have liked, but he was the most explosive player on the floor, on the field every night, including myself.
Okay. So you going to ask one Bullard?
Yeah, definitely.
O lineman.
Offensive line, offensive line. T.C. Wilson,
Monster.
monster,
Monster. Hands
monster.
down.
I was a freshman when he was a senior. He used to look so scary in those pads, man.
Huge, man. Huge. D lineman.
D-line. Damon Williams. Damon Williams. Damon
Sniff.
Williams.
Big time. Big time. Now, where do you fit in?
So I'm sorry, Damon Williams and
Okay.
Robert Smith. Can't forget about Robert Smith. I mean, even though that was kind of before my time,
Gotcha. Yeah. Hands down.
I mean, the things you hear about what he used to do are amazing.
And this is what Chris. One of the topics is that I want to go off of who you personally saw. So like, of
Yeah,
course, hands down,
definitely.
Ping,
Yeah,
Robert Smith, Tom Lekowski.
yeah.
But it's really off. What I'm saying, who you seen.
Who you saying?
So all your answers are great.
All right, definitely.
Um, real quick though, what a Deesky, Derek Wilson fit in that, and what
Definitely,
a Big
definitely,
O.
definitely. Derek Wilson fits in. He gotta fit into the top five linemen in East Chicago history all time. He's a 3-year starter. It's not many of those. I mean, if any of those other guys who can say that. I'm not sure if any of those other guys who we mentioned can say they were a 3-year starter on the offensive line.
Gotcha.
And so Derek Wilson was a starter on the offensive line, so his name has to be there somewhere.
Gotcha.
Definitely. And Big O was those different kind of guys. He was one of those different kind of guys, the Randy Mosses, the Adrian Petersons, the ones that come by every so many years that could play anywhere, anytime. He was just one of those guys that could have played with Miami, Florida State. Adrian Big O was a 5-star recruit, hands down, definitely. I don't consider myself as a 5-star recruit, but I definitely consider him as one.
Okay. Linebacker.
Linebacker. Ooh wee. You know, I'm a
Yeah.
little biased. I'm gonna be a
Okay.
little biased. You know,
Okay.
I seen Aaron Smith. I seen Aaron Smith take over games, and I seen Aaron Smith miss plays too.
Gotcha.
I mean, I seen Willie Lewis miss plays, but I seen Willie Lewis dominate games, not just from making tackle from sideline to sideline, or making tackle where you won't get past the line of scrimmage type of deal. You know what I
Hands
mean?
down.
And we talking about from what I've seen.
Exactly.
So
And I was part of that
definitely, definitely.
Willie Lewis experience.
I remember going to places like Terre Haute and Ben Davis and Willie Hen somebody and their crowd going wild. Like we were the home team. You know. And you don't see that type of thing on every Friday night. You don't see those players every Friday night.
Gotcha. Cornerback.
Cornerback. Man, I grew up watching Albert Thomas, man.
Awesome.
I thought Albert Thomas was, a great cover corner. He used to make plays as a tackler. Even though he played on some bad teams, he still made plays. You know what I'm saying? Albert Thomas was one of my favorites. You got to say Damon Glenn because of the accomplishments. And I think I got to put myself and Antoine Bullard in that conversation too. Keon Jackson, I really didn't get to see him play too much, but I heard a lot of good things about Keon Jackson. I even heard a lot of good things from Keon Jackson from Antoine Bullard, who they end up having to go head-to-head with the next year after I left.
Okay.
So, definitely, but as a cover, even Rodney Reynolds was a great cover corner. He just had terrible ball skills.
Gotcha.
So it was a few guys that were put up there, but I gotta say, I have to say myself.
Hands down. Safety.
Jahi Garrett was the best safety, I believe, in
Ball
Chicago
hawk.
history.
He's ball hawk. Ball hawk. Okay. Now, you just mentioned yourself as DB. It's one of the questions I was going to ask you. What do Chris Browder fit in that? Because you got the stats, you got the numbers, you got the accomplishments.
Men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
So where do you fit in when you say running back?
Man, like I say, you got to say the Rose Robisons, Martell Francis. But
are you top 5?
From what, definitely.
So okay, you got Royce Robinson.
Martell France.
Okay.
Aaron Smith.
Okay.
Then who else but me?
Got you. Wide receiver.
Wide receiver. Like
because you was really out of that slot. You was you know what I'm saying? Where you fit in there?
It's hard for me to speak on that too, really, because I feel like I was one of the only guys who caught 2-3 yard passes and took them 70-80 yards. So I definitely feel like I go into that category somewhere too. You know what I mean? But like I say, Antoine Bullard I feel like Antoine Bullard was the most explosive player on the field every single Friday night when we went out there. No matter who we played, even if I was out there or not, I think Antoine Bullard was the most explosive. Seriously talking, he made a lot of plays. He stretched the deep. He was like a Randy Moss type of guy in high school, the guy who you have to put two on him, because if you let him go deep one-on-one, there's nothing you can do about it. So I got to put him up there, Antoine Kennedy, the stature, the 6'5" stature, you know what I mean? It you know what I'm saying? That's just the presence of him out there, you know what I'm saying? It does so much to a defense, you know what I mean? Sometimes it ain't all about catching balls and scoring touchdowns. It's just about the presence you put on the field.
Where do you rank Mike McGee? Do you consider him as a wide receiver?
I just say Mike McGee was a football player. You know what I'm saying? Mike McGee just was a football player. You put him at wide receiver, he gonna catch the ball. You can hit him, you can do whatever you want to him. Mike McGee was gonna catch the football. You put him on defense, he was gonna hit somebody. If I caught a pass, if you caught a pass, if anybody on the team caught, if Marcus broke around the end, you knew that Mike McGee was gonna come and get somebody for you. So I just say Mike McGee was just one of the best football players ever in East Chicago century history. You can't just say he was just a defensive end, outside linebacker, a H-back, a wide receiver. He just was a football player, man.
He was. 1997 against 1998. What's the final score and why?
What's the final score and why? The final score, I say about, East Chicago teams give up a lot of points, man. The proof is in the pudding.
Well, your junior team didn't give a lot of points, though.
Yeah, but I don't think our junior year team could have covered the senior year team.
Okay, and then that senior team.
But I believe the junior team would have won because the physical presence they could have put on to the older team. We maybe could have outscored y'all, but I believe that y'all could have just grounded them. The year before, we could have just grounded and pounded the other team out of the way, where it would have eventually came to the light. But saying that, the 98 team, my senior year, we could have got out to so much of a lead because the team before wouldn't have been ready for it. You just wouldn't have been ready for it. Nobody in the state was ready for it.
How do you So what's the final score? So what's the final score?
Final score 31, 27, 98.
98.
31, 27, 98. Antoine Bullard going deep to win the game.